Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're heading back in time, way back to ancient Persia.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. We're diving deep into Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism. It's one of those faiths that's often overshadowed, but its impact, it's woven into the tapestry of history and philosophy.
It really is, and I'm excited to unravel it.
Me too.
Now, before we get too deep, can we lay some groundwork? Like, for those who might not be familiar, what exactly is Zoroastrianism?
Well, in a nutshell, it's an ancient monotheistic religion founded by the prophet Zoroaster in ancient Persia, which we now know as modern-day Iran. And get this, it predates Christianity and Islam.
Wow, so we're talking really ancient here.
We are, and even though it's not as widely practiced today, it's fascinating to see how it's influenced religious thought over the centuries.
It's like a hidden thread connecting so many beliefs.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about Zoroaster, the founder. He's a bit of a mystery, isn't he? Like, nailing down his exact dates is a challenge?
Oh, absolutely. Pinpointing when Zoroaster lived is like trying to solve a historical riddle.
So where do scholars even begin with this riddle?
Well, some place him way back, like 1500 to 1000 BCE.
Wow.
Others suggest a later period, maybe between the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. Separating fact from legend, it's part of what makes Zoroastrianism so captivating.
It does add a layer of intrigue.
Yeah.
So what do we actually know about his life?
Oh,
Amidst all the mystery, how did he come to found this influential religion?
right. Well, the traditional story goes that he was likely trained as a priest, but around the age of 20, he embarked on this quest for truth.
Makes sense.
And after 10 years of searching, he had this pivotal vision that changed everything.
A vision, huh?
Picture this. Zoroaster at a spring festival collecting water for a ritual. As he's returning to the riverbank, he encounters the archangel, Vohumana.
Oh, wow.
And Vohumana guides him to the presence of Ahura Mazda, the wise lord,
Okay.
and 5 other divine beings, the Amesha
The Amatius Pentos.
Yeah, or the Holy Immortals. And in this vision, he received his mission, his calling, to preach what he called the good religion.
So this vision, that was like the spark that ignited Zoroastrianism.
You could say that.
So what were some of the core beliefs that he began preaching? What was this good religion all about?
Well, one of the groundbreaking concepts he introduced was the belief in one God, Ahura Mazda. This was revolutionary for its time, making Zoroastrianism one of the world's first monotheistic religions.
Wow, really?
Yeah. He also brought forth the idea of this cosmic dualism, this battle between good and evil.
Good versus evil, a classic.
It is a theme we see across various belief systems.
That's true. So is there anything unique about how Zoroastrianism approaches this?
Well, what's really interesting is the emphasis on free will. Zoroastrians believe humans have the power to choose between good and evil, and these choices, well, they have consequences.
Consequences like in the afterlife.
Exactly. It directly impacts their fate, whether it's reward in heaven or punishment in hell. This idea of individual choice and responsibility, that was pretty revolutionary back then.
It adds a whole new layer of complexity. You're not just believing in good or evil, but actively choosing a path.
Right.
Now, you mentioned these divine beings, the Amatius Pentos. What role do they play in all of this?
Think of the Amesha as archangels, each representing a different aspect of Ahura Mazda's creation.
Okay.
And they embody virtues that humans should aspire to. They kind of help maintain the cosmic order and, of course, fight against the forces of evil.
So, like a divine support system.
You could say that.
This is fascinating stuff. We're talking about ideas that were being explored thousands of years ago. It makes you wonder how these concepts shaped not just Zoroastrianism, but the world as we know it.
It's true. Zoroastrianism's impact is undeniable. But of course, it didn't just appear and stay static. It went through quite the journey throughout history.
Oh, I bet. Empires rising and falling, conquests, religious rivalries. It must have been a wild ride.
It was. But through it all, Zoroastrianism managed to not only survive, but thrive at times.
A testament to its resilience, for sure. So where do we begin on this historical roller coaster?
Well, one significant period was during the Achaemenid Empire. Rulers like Darius the Great actually favored Zoroastrianism.
So they had some powerful supporters.
They did. Darius even invoked Ahura Mazda in his inscriptions. This royal backing, it really helped spread the faith.
It makes sense. Having the support of the ruling class can really boost a religion's influence.
Absolutely. But then, of course, came Alexander the Great and his conquest of Persia.
Ah, yes, Alexander the Great, a game changer in many ways.
He was. But even with this massive shift in power, Zoroastrianism persisted. In fact, during the Parthian period that followed, there's evidence of widespread worship of Mithra.
Mithra, wasn't he associated with light and truth?
That's right.
So even with a new ruler, new cultural influences, Zoroastrianism found ways to adapt and continue.
It did. And this resilience continued into the Sasanian era. During this period, Zoroastrianism became the state religion, leading to a flourishing of art, literature, and philosophy.
Sounds like a golden age. But I imagine there were still challenges.
Oh, there were. For instance, other faiths like Manichaeism emerged, creating religious rivalry within the empire.
Ah, so even with official status, there was still competition.
There always is. But the real turning point came in the 7th century with the Arab conquest and the arrival of Islam.
This was a pivotal moment for many faiths in the region.
It was. For Zoroastrians, it led to a period of persecution. Many fled Persia, seeking refuge elsewhere, with a significant number ending up in India, becoming the community known as the Parsis.
It's incredible how, despite these obstacles, Zoroastrianism managed to hold on. And speaking of holding on, we can't forget the scriptures and practices that have kept this faith alive through the ages.
Absolutely. Those are key to understanding the heart of Zoroastrianism.
Let's start with their sacred text.
You mean the Avesta?
Yeah, the Avesta.
Oh, it's a fascinating collection. Think of it as hymns, prayers, laws, even mythical stories passed down through generations.
Wow, it sounds like a treasure trove of history and beliefs all rolled into one.
It is. And the journey of the Avesta itself, it's almost as captivating as the religion it represents.
How so?
Well, it went through these periods of, like, fragmentation and loss, then meticulous preservation. It's a testament to the dedication, of those who kept their faith alive.
It's like they were piecing together their sacred history.
Exactly.
So what are some of the, key parts or sections of the Avesta? What should we really know about?
Okay, well, it's divided into several sections, each with its own focus.
Got it.
You have the yasna, which contains the gathas.
Got this.
They're hymns, believed to be composed by Zoroaster himself.
Oh, wow. So, straight from the source.
Yeah, they offer profound insights into his teachings, considered the most sacred part.
I can see why.
Then there's the Visperad, liturgical texts used in ceremonies and rituals.
Okay.
And, of course, the Vendidad.
The Vendidad, what's that one about?
It's all about purification laws, maintaining spiritual purity.
Interesting. So lots of rules and guidelines for living a pure life.
You could say that. And finally, you have the yashts.
Yashts.
Hymns dedicated to different deities. Gives you a glimpse into the wider Zoroastrian pantheon.
So it's not just Ahura Mazda, there are other divine figures as well.
Right.
That's really interesting. It's like we're getting this multi-layered understanding of their beliefs. But how do these scriptures, how do they translate into actual practice? What are the rituals that bring these beliefs to life?
Well, there's one that's particularly important, especially for young Zoroastrians, the Nyojoth ceremony.
Nyoje.
Imagine a coming-of-age ritual for kids, usually between 7 and 15, where they're initiated into the faith.
So kind of like a confirmation or a bar mitzvah?
Yeah, similar in a way. They receive the sudre, a sacred shirt symbolizing purity, and the kusti, a sacred thread tied around their waist.
Okay, so they're being given these physical symbols of their faith.
Right. The kusti, it represents the good deeds they should do.
It's like a tangible reminder of their commitment.
Yeah.
What other rituals stand out?
Purification rituals are really central to Zoroastrianism. They place huge importance on cleanliness, both physical and spiritual.
Cleanliness is next to godliness, as they say.
Exactly. And they use elements like fire and water, as symbols of purification.
Oh, that's right. I've heard Zoroastrians being called fire worshippers.
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
So what's the real story behind fire in Zoroastrianism? If they don't actually worship it, what does it represent?
While fire, especially the sun, plays a big role in their rituals, it's not worshipped as a god.
I see.
It's seen as a symbol of divine purity, light, and power.
So more like a representation of the divine.
Exactly, like the divine energy that runs through all of creation, a reminder of Ahura Mazda's presence.
I'm starting to understand the symbolism better now. What about death? How do Zoroastrians view that final transition?
Their practices around death are quite unique. They traditionally use these structures called towers of silence, or dakmas.
Towers of silence. Sounds a bit ominous, maybe. What are those exactly?
It might sound strange at first, but it's rooted in the belief that a dead body is unclean
Okay.
and shouldn't contaminate the sacred elements. So in these towers, they expose the bodies to the elements, letting nature take its course.
So it's about returning to nature, but in a very specific way.
Right. And it shows how deeply they value purity and their connection to the natural world. But, Zoroastrianism, like many ancient faiths, it's facing some challenges in the modern world.
Oh, I can imagine. Trying to keep traditions alive while the world around you changes so rapidly can't be easy.
It's not. One of the major challenges is this tension, between keeping those traditions and adapting to the changing times.
Modernization, new ideas, it's bound to create some friction.
It does. And this tension, it plays out in different ways. Like there's debate about the nature of divinity. Some Zoroastrian reformists, they argue that the faith is strictly monotheistic.
Focusing solely on Ahura Mazda.
Exactly, downplaying the roles of other divine beings.
Which makes sense in a way, considering Zoroaster's original emphasis on one god.
Right. But it creates this friction with more traditional views. Those that acknowledge other divine beings, the Azatas.
So it's a question of how literally you interpret these divine beings and their roles.
Exactly. And it's not just about beliefs. There's also the question of practices, like the use of bull's urine in purification rituals.
Oh, wow. That's so different.
It's an ancient belief, about its cleansing properties. But many reformists today, they question it, see it as outdated, maybe even unnecessary.
I could see how that would be a point of contention. Are there other traditions being reevaluated?
Even the Towers of Silence, they've been a defining feature for centuries, but, well, they're facing challenges, especially in places like Mumbai.
Yeah, densely populated areas, I imagine space is a major issue.
It is. Some Zoroastrians are looking at alternatives, like burial or cremation. Others are trying to adapt the towers, making them more environmentally friendly or finding ways to integrate them into urban landscapes.
So finding ways to honor their traditions while also acknowledging the realities of modern life.
Exactly. And despite these challenges, there's this spirit of, resilience, even resurgence.
I'm sensing that too.
There's a growing movement to preserve their heritage, educate others about their faith, and, build a stronger sense of community. They're reclaiming their narrative.
That's really inspiring to hear. It's like they're weaving ancient wisdom into the fabric of modern society.
That's a great way to put it. And part of this effort includes the work of contemporary scholars. They're diving deep into the Avesta, exploring its layers of meaning, uncovering new insights.
It's a journey of discovery that never really ends, does it?
It doesn't. Exploring these ancient faiths, it's like we not only gain insight into the past, but also see a reflection of ourselves, the timeless questions that we've always grappled with.
It's a reminder that we're all part of this larger human story, connected by these threads of belief and tradition that stretch back through time. Before we wrap things up, I keep thinking back to what we talked about earlier, that emphasis on action, choosing between good and evil. It's not just about believing, it's about living it.
Right. It is. Zoroastrianism, it really encourages you to be an active participant, in that battle between Asha and Druj. Every choice, every action, it contributes, it tips the scales.
So it's not a passive faith.
No, not at all. Every good deed, every act of kindness, every effort you make to, make the world better, it all pushes towards Asha, towards the light.
Wow. That's powerful. It's like this call to action woven into the very core of their faith.
It is. And that active participation, it extends to their community, their service. Zoroastrians have a long tradition of philanthropy, social responsibility, making a difference in the world around them.
So it's not just about personal salvation,
Yeah.
but working together to make things better for everyone.
Exactly. And that's a message that I think resonates far beyond just Zoroastrianism. It's a universal truth. We have a responsibility to each other to work toward a more just and compassionate world.
It's true. We're all connected, and our actions have a ripple effect. As we wrap up our deep dive, I'm struck by how much Zoroastrianism has influenced other religions and philosophies.
It is remarkable. Monotheism, heaven and hell, the final judgment, the battle between good and evil, these ideas that are so central to many major religions today, they have roots in Zoroastrianism.
It's amazing to think about. these ancient beliefs shaping the course of history, still influencing us today.
Exploring these ancient faiths, it's an incredible opportunity. We don't just gain insight into the past, but also, see a reflection of ourselves, the timeless questions we grapple with.
Before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Remember that emphasis on free will, that constant battle between Asha and Druj? Yeah. Well, it's a battle we all face in our own lives, every day. So as you navigate your own path, consider this. Which side are you choosing? Are you aligning yourself with Asha, striving for truth and justice, or giving in to the temptations of Druj?
It's a powerful question. It challenges you to examine your actions, your motivations, the impact you have on the world around you.
Because ultimately, you, our listener, you're an active participant, shaping the world with every choice you make. We hope this deep dive into Zoroastrianism has sparked your curiosity, inspired you to learn even more.
And remember, the journey of discovery never really ends. There's always something new to learn, a new perspective to consider, a new layer of wisdom to uncover.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep diving deep.